Welcome back, traders. The last couple of weeks, we've had the privilege of hearing from a couple of gentlemen who trade for a living, and obviously there's a lot that can be learned from full-time traders. Today's guest, John Fleming, does not trade for a living. He owns a successful construction company, but like most successful business people, John is acutely aware of the value of multiple streams of income. And one of his streams is operating as a funded trader around his construction business. If this sounds familiar, whether you own your own company and use trading to overcome seasonal cycles, if you're looking to fire your boss, or you're just simply wanting to bring home a little extra bacon, you won't want to miss today's guest. My name is Gates W. Adams, and I'm your host. And this morning I bring you John Fleming on the Trader Bacon Show.
Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Are you ready? Because the Trader Bacon Show starts right now.
John, welcome, buddy.
Vibe in there.
There you go.
What's
Gotta
up,
get
man?
in the mood,
Good
right?
to see you again.
It's good to see you, man.
Yeah,
How you been?
It was a bop.
Yeah,
I've been all
excellent,
right, been all
excellent.
right.
Well,
So
welcome to the show, man.
I'm too fast, but we're doing all right.
Well, yeah, gotta love the summer heat. So, dude, I'm super excited to have you on the show. We've had a chance to kind of get to know each other, and as mutual funded traders, and had an opportunity to kind of connect that way. And as I mentioned in the intro, we've had an opportunity to speak to a couple of full-time traders, but I don't know that most traders are full-time traders. I think a lot of times they're going to fall into the category that more likely fits your scenario. Now, as I mentioned, you own a successful construction company, but that doesn't have to be the end-all be-all. And trading gives you an opportunity to what? What does trading really bring to your world for you at this point? John, can you hear me?
Well, at first it was just an expression of what I wanted to do with my time. Yes, yeah, I sure can. An expression of what I wanted to do with my time. It was just an outlet of, absorbing information and processing. It was like a puzzle. And it still kind of is that way. I enjoy getting to solve things like this, but now just being an additional source of income, it's just been an excellent treat to apply what I've learned through my work ethic with construction and put it into something that pays just as good, if not better.
That's fantastic. So I guess one of the key things here is that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to sit in front of a screen for hours upon hours upon hours a day, like a lot of traders try to do, like I do when I don't have the show going. So this creates an interesting dynamic for you. Why don't you share a little bit about how you're now? First of all, what timetables are you typically trading?
That's a great question. Typically looking at the hour and down. Obviously you want to look at, hey, what is my weekly doing? What is my, daily bar doing? But when I'm actively in something, I'm looking at about a 15-minute and a 5-minute, and sometimes a 2-minute just for funsies. But most of it's running off of a 15-minute and a 5-minute time frame.
Perfect. Now, do you trade the New York session? Do you trade
as far
after
as
hours? How does that work?
Like times a day? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like doing about 30 minutes after the open and sometimes around power hour. And every now and then while I'm at work, I'll check on my lunch break, which is any time that I want, thankfully. And I see something setting up sometime around then, but usually not with the volume that we get.
Okay. So what this means is you can't necessarily sit there and stare at your charts waiting for a setup for hours upon hours at times. I guess it was the point that I was trying to make there. So what you figured out, presumably, is a way that you're able to trade without necessarily having to do that. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And in the same way that I want to put in hours at work that pay me for my time, I don't want to be spending time at a screen that's not paying for my time. If that makes sense. Yeah, if I'm sitting at a screen all day, then I'm wasting valuable time.
Sure. There's the level of efficiency that's needed if, in fact, you're going to continue to run your company around it. Well, real quick, before we get into some of the excitement that you had to share with us today, I do want to mention, as we wrap up the show today, we are going to be giving away 3 Apex Trader funding evaluations once again. we're going to go ahead and buy. We've got the form up there, the Google form on there. So if you are looking to pick up either your first or your next Apex Trader Funding evaluation, make sure to fill that out, and we'll give some of those away at the end of the show. Now, unfortunately, we seem to be having a little bit of a lag in the communication. So what I'm going to do, John, if it's cool with you, is I'm going to let you go ahead and show us what you've got to show us. And I'm going to kind of sit back so we're not, killing that time with the back and forth, and show us what you got, man. Show us how you're making this happen for you.
Absolutely. I picked two examples. This is probably the better one. If we start with this, this was at the beginning of the month, June 1st. This was on the 1st. And this is pretty A zone kind of trade for me, an A- A+ kind of setup. So I think it kind of works. As you can see on this chart, I don't know what the resolution looks like, but you can see I have an hourly with my extended session up here on the top left, a 15-minute on the bottom. You can ignore this 2-minute for now. And then I have a 5-minute on this top right. And the example that I would like to present is something that's really simple. I honestly like the KISS method of keeping it simple, because I wouldn't say that I suffer from it, but I definitely have an appetite for it, information stimulation. And we can get into why that's important later, but that's been a critical component to my downfall in trading, is absorbing too much information. So I wanted something that was really simple, something that I wouldn't have to process a whole lot of information, because it would lead me into tilt. And without getting into all that right now, I'll just show you why this simple system works for me. On this 1 hour chart, you can ignore this little note about FVG right now. We'll get into it. But on this 1 hour chart, I like to look at something a little larger. I keep it up here because it gives me an idea of what our trend is doing. There in that short term, it looks like a little bit of a pullback, but when we zoom out a little bit, we can see like, hey, we're making some serious progress on the upside. So that just gives me a nice little analysis on what we're doing. That's why I like to keep that 1 hour up. But on this 15-minute is where I like to do most of my analysis. And without getting into too many specifics on where I find areas of interest, I chose this example because it's really easy to identify. I'll pull up a couple price levels here. This one's real simple because we have an obvious area of interest almost right at the opening price, around right there. And you'll have to excuse my computer. It's not a powerhouse. It lags a little bit too. We have an area of interest with the overnight session somewhere right there. Oh, come on, baby. Taking our sweet time. It's not going perfect. Session.
So while you're pulling this up, John,
zooming out into a prior day, we had some areas that were tested.
You're good. Go ahead. I was going to say, while you're pulling this up, so as you're seeing this, you're going to be looking for these same sort of opportunities, whether it's right at open, whether it's during your lunch, as you mentioned, you get to, you get to pick when that time is most convenient for you, or later in the afternoon. So are you looking for the same things regardless of what time it is?
Yes, absolutely. Looking for the same thing no matter what. And the reason I can work from mobile while I'm at work, or if I wanted to check break during a break, or if an alert went off or something like that, I set these in the morning, my areas of interest, levels, whatever you want to call it. I can set these on my desktop in the morning and then switch to mobile in the afternoon or while I'm gone. That way I'm not sitting at the desk and waiting for price to happen. I can actually be productive at my job, without wasting time.
So you're looking for a target price, and you might get a notification
all right.
at
So
some
anyway,
point.
I picked a couple areas of interest without getting too specific on how I chose them. I mean, it's kind of obvious. There's a couple. Go ahead.
Yeah, my folks, I apologize for the lag. I'm not sure exactly where the disconnect is here.
Yeah,
So
let's do this if we can. John, if you're good with it, let's have you kind of just reset, and if you could just pop
Yeah.
up
So
the
I'm looking
screen
for
one more time.
targets. Sorry.
Yeah, let's just have you do a quick reset and join the show once again. See if that fixes a problem on your end. Yeah.
I'm looking for targets. I know when to exit and when to enter if I'm away from the desk. And in this example, found a couple entry spots that may or may not have worked. Found a couple price targets where if it went in my favor, they were easy to identify. And I like to implement a system that's a bit of a mix with some indicators, but I primarily like to work with price action, again, because if I'm only working with price action, I'm not worrying about a whole lot of extra details, and I'm not getting information overload. Again, that was an issue for me, not because I couldn't process it, but because it led me into tilt, and that had to be corrected. So using this system simplified that. And I basically just want to look for a 3-bar off of a key interest area. So you can identify your key interest areas any which way, but price action is universal. You know, the price is going to do what it's doing for you on your chart is what it's doing for me. You know, that number is the same across the board. So I don't need something elaborate. I just need to know a way to interpret what it's doing for me in a simple term. So in this example, I identified a 3-bar that was setting up, and why this would work for me is because a couple of reasons. This 3-bar, I mean, this one comes from tried and true right here. This price action or price charts bar by Al Brooks. He has a real simple method of describing a 3-bar that says once it breaks out of an area, if you get that second sort of broke out of an overnight zone, this second inside bar on the 3-bar that keep my EMAs up, because if we look
Yeah. Hey, John, I'm gonna have you. I'm gonna have your.
5-minute
Yeah, I'm gonna move John in the
on
back
this
real quick.
top,
John, if you can still hear me, pal, let's go ahead and have you kind of refresh your browser. If you want, you can restart your computer and rejoin the program. It's just a bit too laggy, and unfortunately, we're not able to hear you properly there. But Gates, I mean, you've been with Apex for quite some time, and they've got a big sale. Do you want to quickly tell us about that while I pull up my charts and we can go over some levels?
right. So while obviously it's very exciting to give away some evaluations, the fact is right now you actually have the opportunity to pick up any size evaluation that Apex offers, anywhere from $25,000 to $300,000 at 90% off list price. You can use promo code Benzinga to make sure that you pick up that discount. And that is available through, oh gosh, I believe it's July 6th, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you pick that up. This is a limited time offer, and this is a huge discount. We're talking pennies on the dollar. So do take advantage of that. And quite frankly, if you do win one of the evaluations, just add it into the mix and have some extras. But it's a great opportunity that I know a lot of people love to be able to take advantage of when these come up.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. And again, you can just go ahead and use a promo code Benzinga. And there's also, if you go ahead and scroll up on the comments, there is a giveaway that we're currently doing. And it's awesome because we have quite a few folks that have already entered that. So feel free to check that out. Let's go ahead and talk while John refreshes and tries to join back. Let's go ahead and talk a couple of levels. So matter of fact, I used my Apex trading funded account during live trading, and we had a nice little trade that we took here, Gates, because you had, this is the trend line, right? This is the MES on the S&P 500 E-mini index futures here. So you have one, you know, the trend line kind of started here. So that's one touch right there. Then you've got the second touch that happened here on around last week, last Thursday. And then this is today where we had that last touch right over here. So right there is where I kind of took multiple contracts, went short. We went ahead and covered a little bit as well. Matter of fact, here, just to kind of be a little transparent about it, go ahead and apply all. Let's see if we can go to the minute mark so you can see all the action that I had. So It's a little bit crazy, right? Because I try to get in and out, try to scale in and out as well. But we had a bunch of contracts that we sold right around this area because you
Okay.
had that trend line test. So we tried to say, okay, cool, we're going to go short here. My stop loss was about 5 points up. So my stop loss was around 44.05 or so. Just in case the trade didn't work out, we could try to get out of it. And then my first take profit was when it kind of tested VWAP right around here. And of course, I wanted to leave a runner just in case, right? Try see if I can retire on it. And thankfully, the market dumped, and then you got a nice little break to the 43.81s, and then we covered our last contract right over there. And what's beautiful about trading, and as John tries to refresh and join us, is the fact that you can use different type of strategies on different instruments, and they kind of can work as well. What I mean by that is VWAP is my favorite thing to use in terms of indicators, and that's the yellow line that you see there. And you can see the market broke, tested the support, which, matter of fact, if we go to the 30 minutes here, you can see that we had multiple support areas here. So the market broke, tested support, but then it came back to test VWAP, which is that yellow line, and then just went ahead and dumped again. So so far that trade has worked out. But what are your favorite tickers to trade? I mean, obviously, I just showed a trade that I personally took this morning as we got Tesla breaking to the downside as well. Do you have any favorite tickers of yours that you like to trade, Gates?
I personally trade the NQ futures. In fact, back before Apex Trader Funding existed, the guys that started an education company, and they actually happen to be very good old friends of mine. And Daryl has actually been my mentor in trading since day one. I ended up having a whole lot of trading baggage from about 25 years ago that I really struggled to overcome. And even with direct access to a guy like that, excuse me, really struggled with it. So I actually finally started trading back again with some commitment at the beginning of this year. And with that process, I kind of relearned everything. And I actually got funded here a couple of months ago, and I'm looking to get my first payout hopefully here by the end of the month, which, for somebody who has tried to trade probably 10 times in the last 25 years, just never being able to get past that has been just such an incredible opportunity for me. In fact, I have 10 accounts that I'm trading right now. So the beauty of that gives me an opportunity to really to scale up my trades without seeing those big numbers on my trade chart, because that still is a bit of a psychological challenge for me.
Oh, absolutely. And, so many times we tell people, hey, look at the tick, take your P&L away from your charts. That way you don't get in the mental habit of like, oh, I'm up $100. Let me take it now. Or, oh, I'm down $100. I don't want to lose. I'm going to wait till it gets right back to green. Next thing you know, you're down to $100, and that's not helpful whatsoever. Looks like John's trying to join back here in just a second. John, give me a thumbs up and we'll go ahead and have take two right here. All right, here's John. And again, feel free to, matter of fact, John, share your charts again if you want. Or if you want, man, I can just go ahead and walk through whatever it is on my charts here. But let's go ahead and bring John back. John, can you hear us clearly?
I can hear you, man. Sorry about that. I ended up just switching straight to my phone hotspot. So hopefully this works a little tighter than whatever's happening with this ungodly heat.
No worries. So yeah, if you'd like, if you're on your phone hotspot, if you'd like, you can share your think or swim, or we can just talk about this NQ chart that I've got. It's up to you, man. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll try and share Think or Swim again. And if it's still giving issues, we can go ahead and kill it so that we could just pull it up on yours.
Sounds good, my friend. Here you go.
All right. Thanks, boss.
All right.
I don't know where I lost all y'all, but we were talking about a 3-bar off of just a potential area of interest. And yeah. Anyway, found this 3-bar off of, and why this was interesting to me. One is we were holding the lows that were happening on this overnight session, and we were holding them on an EMA. And as you look at this 5-minute on the top right, we saw that it pulled back into my EMAs. And for me, that's important because it identifies a really tight stop loss when combined with the 3-bar method. That 3-bar method being, one, we get that significant breakout bar. And then 2, that second bar identifies where my stop's going to be at the bottom of that wick. And unfortunately, as a 3-bar system, this third bar ends up wicking below, but we've seen so much of that sweeping happening lately that didn't scare me, because my stop would have been moved closer to this 5-minute area. where my EMAs are and where my area of interest was, that level that I put with those highs that were happening on that session. So my stop would have been below where that wick ended up being, even though the 3-bar system would have tried to wick it. I would have considered this more as a fair value gap, if you're familiar with that, where an entry is presented in an area that hasn't been touched yet on either side of that breakout bar. And this ended up providing a fair value gap entry right here. So that would have been my entry rather than my stop. My stop would have been that level below where that wick almost touched it. So my stop would have almost been hit. But because of that combination of a 3-bar and using my EMAs, my stop would have been, man, we're talking 10 points. 10 points on NQ, which can happen really fast. And
Sure.
my R value would have been somewhere around an 8-1, because my take profit area of interest was at that prior day's highs. Let's see if I can zoom out of this bad boy.
So as you're doing that, let me ask you this. So again, thinking about what your schedule looks like and when you're trading, what does your trade management look like? So when you enter this trade, how tied are you to the screen to see what it does? Are you trailing your stops? Are you managing targets? How does that work for you in your trading and in your schedule?
Trail, and on this 15-minute, it ended up. Great question. Yeah, I do like to trail if I'm at the computer. I like to actively manage. And
all right, sorry, John. We're gonna have to see if we can reschedule you for another time. I apologize, but the internet is just not working out. But we will go ahead and get that taken care of for sure. And I appreciate the insights on that. Let me go ahead and share my chart again as we were talking about the NQ. And John, we'll definitely be in touch. I know Gates is going to reach out so we can see if we can reschedule this one. Apologies, man. Hopefully we can get things figured out for the next time. Coming back to the charts here on the NQ, by the way, before we go ahead and give away some eval accounts, and of course, go ahead and use the promo code Benzine to get 90% off of your Apex funded trading account. Taking a look at the NQ, since you mentioned that earlier, Gates, these are the levels that I kind of had, right? Let me go ahead and go to the 30 minutes to clean this up a little bit. On the top end, in terms of resistance, you've got this 15,155.50 area, right? So we've already kind of tested it a couple of times. 3 times we've had resistance, rejected all 3 times there. And now you're kind of testing support on this bottom end where it's about 15,000 or so. So it'll be interesting to see, hey, do we find support, or do we end up kind of testing right back this little, support area, and then we just kind of end up rejecting, similar to how, obviously on let's go ahead and check out Tesla, for example, right? This is another trade that we were trying to plan out yesterday, where it's like you had support, now you're cracking it. Are we going to come back to test that 250 area? Matter of fact, if I go to the 1 minute, you can see we broke it, come back to test it, and now we're kind of a bit below that. And obviously you want a much bigger of a move. I'm actually short on Tesla here, but let's go back to the future side of things. There we go. So would you try to take this trade in terms of going short, Gates, or how would you try to play this one here?
Well, I'll tell you, and actually to answer, I don't know if it's Shalon or Shaylin, or I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Yeah, I trade the Apex sniper system, so I don't really deal with price action. And quite frankly, a lot of this is pretty Greek to me. As I mentioned, I really started to pick this back up the beginning of the year. So my charts, a lot of people like to talk about how my charts look very noisy. There's a lot of information, but again, to me, this doesn't have that same. It doesn't give me the same information because I just haven't learned to read it this way.
Of course, yeah.
And so what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for turnarounds. I'm looking for progressive moves with a pullback. I mean, that's my biggest trade. But I'm looking at a 10-tick diagnostic chart. So, when I see something like this,
a little different. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different from what I look at. So it makes it a little bit tougher to identify what I would be looking for in something like this. Unfortunately, I had some tech difficulties because I was out of town and got back last night and did not trade this morning. So I haven't pulled up any charts yet for the day. Otherwise, I would pop mine up there. for whatever it's worth. You've got my my Twitter handle on there at GAC Trading Pro. I do stream my trading, not because I think anybody should learn from me at this point, but I think it's pretty interesting to identify the process of getting to the point of success. And I was willing to let people see that from day one, which was I think it was an interesting process. I've got a lot of people who've talked about it, but you can actually see all my trade streams on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube. So it's just a different process.
Gotcha. And then look, of course, right over here, we talked about support, and you can see right as you were talking, you got a bit of a bounce from the same area where we went ahead and had a bounce early on last Friday's trading session as well. So now it kind of comes down to, hey, do we continue to break or do we come back to test the VWAP? That's what I would be keeping an eye on if I were to trade the NQs. I mainly trade the ES or the MES rather. So if we go ahead and check that out, let me go ahead and get some of this noise away because we wanted to show you the executions that we had. And again, if you're just joining us, the reason I took this trade, you had the trend line. When it tested it for the third time, we went short, took gains along the way. First time at VWAP, second time at the support area of 43.81s. And now we're kind of bouncing from there itself as well. What is the sniper trading system? I might have to have you come on and show what that is. I mean, that's interesting. We got about a minute here. If you want to talk about that, then we can wrap it up with the giveaway itself.
Absolutely. Well, again, this was developed by actually Daryl Martin, who is the founder of Apex Trader Funding as well, and he does it through apexinvesting.com. Was the company that does the education, and ultimately it boils down to there's a lot of information that comes from order prints or order flow. But it's been packaged and developed in a way to where it's very visually noticeable. So you're just looking for some very specific short-term moves. Typically, in fact, it's interestingly enough, I operate on a 9 to 21 risk reward ratio. So I have to be in the neighborhood of 75 to 85% win ratio to be profitable.
Right.
Well, because of what we're looking for, it ends up being it's very reliable in the sense that if you follow and you understand what you're looking for, it ends up being pretty identifiable. I'm probably not explaining this very well, but I'm looking for visual movements. So I'll see, if we're chopping, I'm looking for a range. I want to know where the top and my bottom of my range is. And if I see an entry signal, do I have enough room to get in there and get out with my 9-tick profit, by my 9-tick profit target? Whereas if we're trending, generally with the trend, I'm going to try to roll with the trend, look for that pullback. And if I get that base information in that pullback, which basically is that we have some trapped orders, we have some exhaustion in the move where people are not getting filled. And, we're taking that right back up if it's an uptrend or right back down if it's downtrend. So I've actually never taken the opportunity to explain it, so I apologize if that was a little choppy, but you can kind of see me talk about it, or you can actually check out apexinvesting.com. They let you try it out and check it out for 30 days, risk-free, no credit card needed. Just pop in an email and let you check it all out. It's pretty cool.
Of course, now we've got our winner here as well. So matter of fact, it is going to be, I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of type it out in the chat itself. Matter of fact, let's see what's going on. Oh, you scared me there, Makoto. I thought Tesla just ran up there. But that's our first winner. So this is going to be someone I have your email address here. Obviously, you can go ahead and keep an eye out. I will go ahead and send you an email after the show is done. And then we've got Chai that has won the second account as well. And then we've got Lucas that won the third one. So keep an eye out. By the end of the day, you will get an email from me with the promo code that'll give you 100% off. But I promise you 90% off is almost just as good. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and use promo code Benzinga. You can see it on the bottom hand of your screen. So you can go ahead and get 90% off your initial sign up and then 80% off from thereafter. So if you're like Gates, you can have multiple accounts. That way your psychology is great when you trade a bigger account. But Gates, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Any final words from you?
Man, I just appreciate it. Sorry, folks, for some technical difficulties. Was not quite prepared for that, but we're going to have a great show for you next week. Make sure to check us out. We'll be doing a few more giveaways. In the meantime, if you didn't win one of those, take full advantage of that 90% off. It's a great opportunity to build your accounts.
Amen to that. And John, I know you're still hanging out with us in the background. Apologies, man. We'll figure out the internet stuff, and then we will hopefully reschedule for you ASAP. But appreciate you guys watching. This has been the Trader Bacon Show. Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon.